After buying an old car and rebuilding it, a young nerd is possessed by it. And now his car decided to go after those who mistreated him, revealing itself to be a monstrous vehicle. The movie kicks off in a car factory in the 1950s. A line of Plymouth Fury cars are being finished. However, one of them is special, a red model, which is being inspected by one of the workers. To his misfortune, while checking the engine, the hood drops down by itself, crushing his hand. While he goes to tend to his wound, another employee starts to inspect the car from the inside and drops ashes from his cigar on a seat. As time passes and the factory comes to an end, the supervisor notices that the car's headlights are still on. He goes to check but is shocked to find the employee's body with the cigar. The scene then shifts to the present, where we are introduced to a boy named Dennis, who arrives to pick up his friend Arnie, a nerdy and clumsy young man. Despite their different personalities, the two become best friends, and the two make their first day of school. As they arrive at the school and collecting some materials, we are introduced to a young and beautiful girl named Lee, a new student. Next, at the campus, Dennis awaits Arnie for lunch, but Arnie doesn't show up. Dennis finds out that Arnie's being harassed by Buddy, the class bully, who snatches his lunch away. Things escalate as Buddy takes out a knife and throws Arnie's lunch on the ground, making him slip on it. As he's not satisfied with this, Buddy then smashes Arnie's glasses with his foot. Witnessing this, Dennis intervenes and disarms Buddy with a single blow, and punching him on the face, which leads to a fight. However, a teacher intervenes and Arnie confirms that he threatened them with a knife. The teacher then forces Buddy to empty his pockets. He then shows him the penknife he was hiding, and as a result, he is expelled from school, and his friends are sent to detention. After school, as Arnie and Dennis are driving along the way, and they see a wrecked car parked in front of a house, they hop out of the car and take a closer look. Just by looking at the car we can conclude that it is not in good shape and badly looked after. This is the same red car from the factory incident. By looking at it, Arnie soon becomes obsessed with the car. Suddenly, an old man named George appears in front of them and he's the owner of the car. He tells them the car is called Christine and that it belonged to his brother, who died a few weeks ago. As a result, he wants to get rid of the car as soon as possible and he also offers a deal of $250. Hearing such a short deal, Arnie gets excited. Despite Dennis's refusal, he closes the deal without a second thought. As the duo arrives at Arnie's home, he tells his parents about his recent purchase, but his strict mother is against the idea of having a wrecked car and tells him to get rid of it. Arnie refuses to do so as he's done enough to please his parents and bought the car with his own savings. Even so, his mother remains persistent in her decision, prompting Arnie to leave the house and take the car with him. Without any place to go, the duo then makes their way to a garage, where they are met by a grumpy old man named Will, the owner of the garage. He treats the young boys very rudely. However, he lets them keep the car overnight and then tells them to go home. The duo then rides back, and Dennis asks Arnie why he bought an old and rusty car. He replies that he finally found something as ugly as himself, but that it can become something amazing if he puts his mind to it. Time passes by as Arnie works day and night to fix the car. The old man continues to be rude, but he offers Arnie a deal. If Arnie helps him in the garage, he can pick up the scrapped materials he needs for his car. The young man accepts the offer and continues working on the car, not realizing that, in a mysterious way, he is becoming more and more attached to Christine. The next day, Dennis along with his friends talks about the new students and he's challenged to talk to her. Dennis approaches the new student and asks her out, but she tells him she already has a boyfriend. He leaves the table embarrassed due to the rejection. Next, he goes to Arnie's house, as they haven't seen each other recently. He notices that Arnie is different, without his glasses and with more stylish clothes and a rebellious temper. Without any interaction with his friend, he leaves for the garage. His mother tries to stop him, but instead of listening to her, he departs. She then talks to Dennis and tells she's worried about her son, as she recently discovered that the previous owner took his own life inside the car by inhaling carbon monoxide. Upon hearing this, Dennis becomes troubled. Next, he then visits George's house, where George reveals what happened to his brother and tells when he bought Christine, his brother became obsessed with it, even after his daughter and wife lost their lives in it. To make matters worse, after his brother perished, weeks later the car mysteriously turned up at his doorstep. Hearing such a story makes Dennis worry. He then sneaks into the garage and looks at the car. He tries to open the door, but it's locked. Suddenly, the radio starts, which makes him leave before anyone sees him. The next morning, Dennis and his team are having a football match where Dennis is preparing for a special move. Meanwhile, Arnie arrives with Christine, fully restored, which catches the attention of Buddy and his friends. Additionally, Lee also step out from the car, and they both start kissing in front of everyone, which is enough to distract Dennis and cause him to get seriously injured. As the rival player was trying to take the ball from him, at the hospital, Arnie visits him and reveals he's been out for a long time. Dennis reveals that his leg is in a cast and his neck is fractured as well, which means he'll never be able to play football again, as he almost became paraplegic. He then asks how Arnie managed to fix Christine in such a short period of time. Arnie replies by saying the old-fashioned way. Arnie then reveals that he made his parents register Christine under his name, otherwise he would drop out of the school, after which he departs. In the evening, Lee and Arnie are at a movie theater and are having a romantic moment inside the car. As things are about to escalate, Lee backs off and leaves. Arnie approaches her, and Lee tells him that she doesn't want those moments in the car. After which the couple starts to argue about the fact that he is obsessed with Christine and pays more attention to her than to his own girlfriend. However, he somehow convinces Lee to get back in the car. As they get in, the windshield wiper malfunctions, and Arnie goes out to fix it. Inside, Lee grabs a snack to eat in the car. Suddenly, the car's radio starts, and a strong light emits from the dashboard. Lee starts to feel like she's choking. As she is unable to breathe, Arnie tries to help. However, Christine locks the doors all by itself, and in despair, Arnie tries to open the door. Meanwhile, Lee manages to unlock the door, and a driver rushes to help her and performs the Heimlich maneuver, resulting in the dislodging of the food. After this, as they arrive at Lee's house, she rushes out of the car and doesn't want to talk. She claims that it was the car that did this to her because Christine was jealous. As strange things always happens when the two are together. But he thinks it all in his girlfriend's mind, and Arnie apologizes and tells her they'll talk it over tomorrow. He hops back into the car, tries to start it, but fails. He then tells Christine that what happened to Lee wouldn't change anything and she will continue to be his car. After that, he tries again, and the car starts, after which, he departs. Next, he returns and parks his car at the garage. Meanwhile, Buddy and his friends sneak their way in without him noticing. As Arnie leaves, the gang goes to Christine, armed with sledgehammers and wrenches. They begin to destroy the car completely, as they're not satisfied by only destroying the bodywork, one of them starting to destroy the interiors of the car along with the radio. The next day, Arnie and Lee reconcile, and as they together go back into the garage, Arnie is devastated to see Christine completely destroyed. Witnessing this, Lee tries to support him by asking who did this to Christine, but in rage, Arnie starts to shout at her and make her leave. During dinner, Arnie tells his parents what happened at the garage, and they comfort him, saying they'll help him buy a new car. This does exactly the opposite. Enraged, he starts blaming them for the incident, saying that if they had let him park his car at home, this wouldn't have happened. After saying a lot of rude things to his parents, he leaves. However, his father confronts him and asks him to apologize to his mother and starts taking physical measures. Suddenly, Arnie strikes back, leaving his father speechless. Next, Arnie revisits the garage and decides to repair Christine to its former glory. But to his surprise, the car supernaturally repaired its engine. Amazed by the fact, he asks what else she can do. So the car starts to repair itself with fixing its suspension, then its totally wrecked hood along with its damaged bumper. She effortlessly restores itself completely, without making a sweat. Later, on the highway, a truck stops and a young man comes out of it named Muchi, one of Buddy's friends. Hears the sound of a car engine from a distance he sees and finds out it's Christine. Frightened, he's suspecting that it's Arnie seeking revenge, he starts justifying his actions. But the car turns on its headlight and tries to run over him. However, he runs for his life and dodges the attack in time, thinking he lost the vehicle. But Christine reappears and continues the chase. He jumps out a fence of a warehouse and runs into a narrow alley. Persistent, Christine continues his chase, neglecting the damages, and manages to corner him inside a warehouse. Finding nowhere to go, he takes out a pocket knife and threatens the driver. However, Christine starts to do a burnout and advances. Despite the narrow alley and the damage to his body, she forces her way through and crushes the boy into two halves. The next morning, Arnie visits Dennis and tells him what happened to Muchi. Dennis finds it odd and finds it even stranger that Christine was restored overnight after being torn up into pieces. However, Arnie nods and leaves. Outside, he's approached by a detective named Jenkins. Upon asking about Muchi, Arnie replies he doesn't know about the elimination, although he's pleased by the news. As the detective starts to suspect him, and also reveals that he heard from Arnie's girlfriend, Lee, about what happened to the car and how strangely it was restored. Hearing this, he loses his temper and leaves without answering any questions. Later, Arnie calls Lee and tries to convince her to meet him, but she refuses, which enrages him more. Meanwhile, at a convenience store, Buddy and his friend, named Dawn, buy some drinks and drive away. However, on the road, Buddy notices they're being followed by a car. He tries to lose the car by reversing the vehicle, only for the vehicle to do the same. Annoyed, Buddy speeds down the road until he stops at a gas station where his friend Richie works. He then gets out of the car with a rod to confront whoever is following him. However, Christine slams into Buddy's car, and Buddy suspects it's Arnie and dares him to confront him. Christine once again slams Buddy's car, and Dawn, along with the car, is smashed against the wall. The fuel starts to leak and instantly catches on fire, which results in the garage exploding, taking Richie and Dawn with it. Buddy runs for his life. Seeing this, Christine starts to follow him while covered in flames. In the middle of the deserted road, Christine follows Buddy and soon runs over, killing him immediately. At the garage, Will hears some noise and finds Christine covered in smoke. He approaches the car with a shotgun to find out who's driving. As Arnie is out of town for some work assigned by him, he tries to open the door, but the whole body is extremely hot. However, Will manages to open the door and finds no one, which surprises him. To investigate, he decides to get into the car. Using this to her advantage, Christine smashes the old man into the dashboard, leaving no witness behind. The next day, Arnie returns and finds some policemen surrounding the garage. Inside, he finds Jenkins, who tells him about Will's death and that his body was found inside his car. Surprisingly, the situation looks like he took his own life. Arnie suspects it's Christine's doing, who is once again fully restored. Next, Dennis returns home and receives a call from Lee, who immediately visits him and says she suspects Christine is somehow controlling Arnie, as he's acting strangely. Dennis also believes the same, and they decide to destroy the car to save their friend. As Lee leaves, seconds later Arnie appears with Christine and calls Dennis for a ride. As they depart, Arnie starts behaving strangely and begins drinking while driving. He exceeds the speed limit and even takes his hands off the wheel, letting the car drive all by itself. This attitude makes Dennis worry. He starts repeating Lee's words that he isn't in control of his car. Arnie then starts telling him, in a threatening tone, that nothing can stand between him and Christine. As proof, he accelerates his car to maximum speed and changes lanes, almost colliding with a car coming in the opposite direction. Witnessing this, Dennis leaves a note on Christine's body, asking Arnie to meet at the garage in the evening. At the garage, Dennis, along with Lee, waits for Arnie. However, he doesn't show up, so they drive a bulldozer into the workshop and decide that Lee would wait in the office, and as Arnie approaches her, Dennis would destroy Christine. As they leap into action, they see Christine already hiding in the shadows. Suddenly, the car turns on and tries to run over Lee. However, she manages to grab a dangling tire and dodges the attack in time, resulting in Christine crashing into another car. Christine again tries to kill Lee, but Dennis manages to save her by putting the bulldozer in between. After that, the two position themselves to face off against each other, revealing that Arnie is already inside the car, completely dominated by Christine, which is repairing itself in the meantime. To their bad luck, the bulldozer loses power. Meanwhile, Christine crashes into the office, resulting in Arnie being thrown off the windshield. As Lee tries to help Arnie, he jumps and grabs her by surprise. To his misfortune, he's mortally wounded by a piece of windshield glass piercing through his chest and dies in front of Christine. Unable to do anything, Christine tries to ram Lee but fortunately gets stuck in the act. Dennis seizes the moment, restarts the bulldozer, and starts driving towards Christine. The blow hits her hard, but the car resists and tries to run towards Lee again. Dennis uses the bulldozer's claw to pierce the vehicle from behind, which causes the car to lose power. As the couple starts to feel safe, Christine once again tries to rebuild. To put an end to the evil forever, Dennis turns up the bulldozer and runs over Christine, starting from behind, destroying its back, and the car starts resisting. However, Dennis uses the bulldozer and crushes Christine, running all over her body back and forth until its engine blows up, destroying her completely. The next day, we see the duo with Jenkins, and Christine is turned into nothing but a lump of metal scrap. The danger then seems to be over, and as they depart, we can see a small piece of Christine begin to move. With this suspense, the movie comes to an end, so if you've enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you in the next one.